because I can't tell you the story of raising and training this puppy without telling you some of the story of me and my disabilities, because there's a lot that I haven't told you. One of the things that I've deliberately spent the last 2 years doing is to set myself up to be able to film the raising and the training of my next service dog. The goal is that you can hopefully benefit from seeing the process of socializing a puppy, training foundation skills, going through the CGC, CGCA, CGCU, training public access, and training tasks. I want to show you the balance between letting a puppy be a puppy, meeting my puppy's needs, as well as providing structure and teaching important life skills. Now, up until now, I've been mostly a professional and an educator, but I can't tell you the story of raising and training this puppy without also telling you a little bit of the story of me and of my disabilities, because there's a lot that I haven't told you. So there's so much that I do put on this channel that is the training and the mistakes I make and how I fix them and different ways to train things and all of that. But what you don't see is a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. One of those incidents was when I was doing the video on migraine alerts. So I had one of my clients come out to do an interview about her migraine alert dog. I was super excited about it. I had set up my office. We were ready to go. And Megan was driving from at least an hour away. And right before that happened, maybe a half hour before, I was bending down to tie my shoes, a normal thing that I do all of the time without incident. And I ended up having an incident where my knee, I call it falls out. I don't know what the technical term is, the kneecap dislocate, something happens, and basically it makes it so I'm in a lot of pain and I can't walk typically between 2 and 3 days without crutches, because all the muscles just tense up around my knee and it just is really painful. And so when that happens, I take this rescue medication for that. And so it's a half an hour before Megan is supposed to come, and I can't walk up the one step between, it's so bad that I can't walk up the one step between my mudroom where I was and the rest of the house. So I can no longer film the office. And of course, if I had called Megan and been like, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm injured and we can't film, she of course would have rescheduled and had no problem with it. But I was so excited about this interview. She had already driven, she was already on her way, and I wanted to make it happen. And so I ended up having my husband, lovely human being, move all of my filming equipment into my mudroom so that we could film in the mudroom. And I'm just waiting for my meds to kick in. He gets my crutches for me. And I hobble over and we shoot the interview. And you probably can't tell on the interview that what has just happened, but the reality of my EDS, my HEDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, is that sometimes my limbs just dislocate. And I could be doing anything that day. That morning I had been kickboxing, I'd walked the dogs, no issues. Tie my shoes, problem. My friend Spencer found me while I was cleaning out my car. The same thing happened. I had to go to the emergency room because I couldn't resolve it and I didn't have the meds that I needed. It happens relatively frequently. It's been happening for almost 20 years now. And I had to be hospitalized one of the first month, I think, that I was in college, and I was just reading a book in bed, and my joint dislocated and I had to go to the hospital on a Friday night. So fun. And so that can happen at any time for what seems to be any reason sometimes. And that's part of my life that I live with, that this thing can happen, and it makes me more careful. And it means that sometimes when I'm working dogs, I have to be more careful. And it's something I haven't really talked about because it hasn't been relevant, but it's about to become relevant. Or we could talk about the guide dog placement video where I placed a guide dog and it involved a lot of travel and it was really, really stressful for me. And I ended up coming home and getting really sick. I got migraine, a complex migraine like I'd never had before. I couldn't use speech. My husband found me, unable to communicate. I didn't know his name. I went to the hospital, obviously. They did a spinal tap, an MRI. They thought I had a stroke. I was unable to communicate. I didn't know where I was for 2.5 days before I started coming back from that. And that was legitimately scary. I mean, it wasn't super scary for me because I didn't know what was happening, but it was scary afterwards. And it was scary for my family when it did happen. And it changed a lot for me because I was so worried. Like that had happened, fortunately, while I was home with my husband, who was able to identify that there was obviously a problem. But what if it had happened while I traveled? And I travel a lot. And so it changed how I thought about travel. It changed my independence because I was scared. And only after doing, some of the training that I did with WIP, that really helped reduce my stress around travel, knowing that I had her there with me to help out if something like that happened. And it really made me reevaluate how I traveled, how I checked in, and what travel was worth it, and also what stress was worth it. And it kind of changed things for me. And even outside of YouTube, for a long time, I wasn't telling people about these things that I was experiencing. I mean, some of them I had to, right? Because, when I'm being hospitalized for migraines or I can't walk for a few days, like that's pretty apparent. But some things I hid because I thought if people knew about the panic attacks or the depressive episodes or the impulsivity issues that I was having, I thought that they would think that I was broken or crazy or unable to do my job, which for some reason bothered me the most. I mean, for years, I wasn't telling the people that I was placing guide dogs with that I was using WIP as a service dog because I didn't want them to ask questions, because I thought that if they knew, they wouldn't think that I was a competent trainer. And I do understand how privileged it is to have a disability that I didn't have to disclose to these people, and also how ironic it is that I did a job my entire life working with people with disabilities, and I was, afraid to disclose my own disabilities. And it's just like an interesting thing to think back on. But also it was a little bit of a product of the time because we hadn't become so focused on mental health during that time. And some of the stuff I was experiencing, I didn't even have a name for myself. So I was able to keep that up until eventually I wasn't able to anymore and things started leaking out around the edges. But once I was able to say the things out loud, and huge shout out to therapy on that one, things got significantly less scary. There were so many other people on this journey with me, and I was getting what I needed. And saying the things out loud with Cool Whip by my side made my life so much easier. I got appropriate medication, I got appropriate support, I got into physical therapy, I changed a lot of things about my life, and as hard as it was, I even left my job as a guide dog instructor. And all of those things taken together made my life easier and made living with my disabilities easier to manage. So that's all to say that by necessity, you're going to see a lot more of me showing up in these videos, because the story of raising and training this puppy is as much the story of this puppy as it is a story of me and navigating the world together as a team. So I don't have a ton of things to say about imposter syndrome right now, besides that now that I make YouTube videos or public videos for a living, I experience it a lot more than I did as just a private trainer. The questions that pop into your head, like, am I even good at this? Or why would people listen to me? That stuff that comes up, or even the one where you're like, well, I'm a certified pet dog trainer, I'm a certified service dog trainer, I'm a certified guide dog mobility instructor, but maybe just one more title, one more bit of education will make me feel like I'm worthy of giving instructions to others. And, newsflash there, it's not going to. It's never, no more letters after your name is going to make you feel more legitimate. The continued education, I'm definitely all for that. But, the imposter syndrome probably isn't going away with more letters. Anyways, I'm not sure that I really had a point about imposter syndrome, just to say it out loud and acknowledge that it's there, because I'm hopefully not the only one that experiences it. And I'm always trying to make those thoughts smaller in my brain, but, it's there. It's definitely there. Now, as I go down this road, and it's a road that I fully understand that I am choosing, I am also opening myself up even further to the things that often come along with doing this type of work. In the comments section, I can count on one hand how many people have said negative things about my training, but I could fill a room with the amount of comments that have a lot more to do with me as a person than anything else, that with obvious top ones being people having a problem with my voice and people having a lot of thoughts about my weight. And getting deeper into the story of raising and training a puppy for myself is only going to bring more of that. And reading those things is really hard. I don't have thick skin. Sometimes it feels like tissue paper. But the thing that really helps is that the majority of the comments I get are so kind and so thankful. And honestly, without those comments and all of you that leave me those comments, I wouldn't still be doing this because it wouldn't be worth the emotional toll of seeing the other stuff. And for that, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that you all allow me to do this thing that I really love as my job. So thank you for that. In the past, I've spent hours editing my videos, putting in lots of B-roll, making quick cuts to try and retain attention, and that's been great, but here's the problem. I am a dog trainer and not an editor. Now, right now, I have two very well-trained dogs that I live with, Jake and Cool Whip, if you're new to the channel. But when I first got those dogs, I devoted hours of time a day exercising, training, mentally enriching them, doing all the things that I wanted and needed to do to help them to grow up to be the dogs that they are now. And the thing is, I'm going to be getting a puppy really, really soon. And not only will I have these two well-trained dogs to take care of, but I will have this puppy that's going to require the same amount of hours of attention a day, if not more, for the goals that I have for this dog. And that means that something has to give, and the thing that's going to have to give is probably my editing style. I've said it before and I'll say it again, raising a service dog is a full-time job. So if I want to do a good job filming that process so that you can see it, it means that my editing probably isn't going to look exactly as polished. And that's a choice that I'm going to make, and I hope that it won't bite me in the butt, but we'll see. So ultimately, I hope that this video hasn't scared you off and that you are excited to come along with me on this journey. And so on that note, I want to ask something of you. I want to know what you're interested in seeing in this puppy raising process. What excites you? What interests you? What is going to be most helpful to you as a fellow owner trainer or service dog handler? I already do have an entire list of videos all the way through December that I want to make when I get the puppy. And I'm about 2/3 of the way through a puppy raising course that I've written that just needs me to insert the videos of the puppy and the training to get that off. And I've also started a foundations course that's going to be applicable both to puppies and to an adult dog that you're looking to turn into a service dog prospect. But what do you want to see from my YouTube channel, from Patreon, from my courses even? Let me know down in the comments what's going to be helpful to you so that you can spark some ideas for me and so that I can help you raise your next service dog prospect. Or even your sport dog or your well-adjusted pet dog, because there's going to be that stuff too, because this puppy is going to do, yes, service work, but they're also going to be a pet for my family, and they're also going to be doing sports with me. So we're going to be covering kind of a lot of stuff. And if you're looking for a backstage pass to this journey, or you just want to support the work that I'm doing here, consider signing up for the Doggy Patreon community. That's where I'll be putting even more uncut training sessions so that you can see the raw footage and learn what I do when things don't go as planned. Because going back to the drawing board and coming up with a new strategy is a part of every training journey. You can join for as little as $4 at patreon.com/doggyu. And on that note, thank y'all for being here. Thank you for being so kind to me and for allowing me into your homes every week. I am so grateful. Happy training, y'all.